Hey, I'm Nicky Numbers, I'm a professional poker player, and today I'm going to help you learn how to evaluate your starting hand. So you sit down at the table, you get dealt 2 cards, you peer at them, now what? Now you have a decision to make. So let's look at a few examples. We're going to start off with a hand like King 9. This is a hand that is commonly played by a lot of amateur players because they see 2 fairly big cards, especially with a king present. This hand is actually a terrible hand. Unless you're moving all in with it pre-flop for a small number of big blinds, like less than 10, it really doesn't have a lot of playability. It rarely hits the flop. When it does hit the flop, it flops a 1-pair hand, and the 1-pair hand that it flops always has a fairly bad kicker. Or it's a low pair, like as in the case of King 9 when it hits a 9. And when it hits a king, 9 is a terrible kicker. So it's just problematic. It doesn't flop straight draws, it doesn't flop flush draws, it doesn't flop draws of 8 outs or more. That drastically reduces its playability. Let's take a look at another hand. Deuce offsuit. This hand is certainly in the same category. Deuce offsuit is in the same category of King 9 because the category is starting hands that do not contain an ace but have 1 gap or more. So like Deuce 4 offsuit, King 9 offsuit, 10 deuce offsuit, 8 deuce. These are all hands that don't work together in multiple ways. It's almost like playing 1-card poker. Why only have 1 whole card working for you when you can have both? Take a hand like Ace Queen. This is a very strong hand because it regularly flops top pair. The larger each of your cards, the greater the chances of flopping top pair. Ace King, for example, flops top pair 30% of the time. Pocket Queens is certainly a great hand. Pocket Queens is in the big pair category, which I would classify as pocket 10s or greater, so 10s, jacks, queens, kings, or aces. These hands all have a lot of inherent value just because they're dealt so rarely and they're such a large pair. 7-6 suited is a great example of a suited connector. Suited connectors, suited 1-gappers like 7-5, and suited 2-gappers like 7-4 all have a lot of post-flop playability because they flop straight draws, they flop flush draws, as well as sometimes flopping strong made hands. In fact, a true suited connector like 6-7, where it's directly connected and there's 3 cards to a straight that you can hit on the top and 3 cards to a straight that you can hit on the bottom, we call that maximum range. So 4-5 suited through Jack 10 suited are suited connectors with maximum range. Those hands hit the flop to make 2-pair or better or a draw of 8 outs or more over a quarter of the time. And no matter what, remember that cards that are offsuit and contain multiple gaps without an ace are trash hands. You want to avoid playing them unless you're just making a pure move, meaning that you're bluffing at the pot pre-flop or you're planning to bluff it at post-flop, because that's the only way these hands have value.